Yeah, I can't tell if the Blue Yeti sounds worse or if you just have a worse sounding voice than me.
Well, I'm pretty sure you do have a better sounding voice than me.
I don't know about that.
No, I'm pretty sure you do. I've had comments from people. Not to say that mine sounds bad, but I've had comments that yours sounds exceptionally good.
Who's commented that to you?
Friends and family who have listened to the show.
That doesn't come across for me.
Oh, there you go.
Although I enjoy my podcasts in probably the least audiophile kind of way. Like I get most of my listening done in the shower with just coming out of my phone speaker or something.
I don't even know how you can hear that.
Well, I turn it up quite a bit.
Even still.
And, well, it's kind of jumping ahead a bit, but I've got an even better way to do it now because I put a HomePod mini in my bathroom.
Excellent. I hoped you'd done that. How's the experience been?
So I just got it this morning and opened it up and got it set up. And first impression is, this is going to be cliche because everyone said it, but it's so much smaller than I expected. And like even after listening to months of reviews saying it's smaller than you expect, it was even smaller than still my expectations were at.
That's the first thing that we said on the show after it was announced. Like, we looked up the actual dimensions of the thing, and it was
right,
like 2 inches tall or something crazy like that.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, especially when you listen to it and it gets so loud. Like it's probably half the size of the Google Home Hub it's replacing in my bathroom, but twice as loud. It's awesome.
So it's got a bit of the regular HomePod performance.
Yeah, I'm certainly not an audiophile, and so if you told me that was a HomePod playing it and I didn't know the difference, I'd probably say, yeah, that sounds pretty good. I'm sure there's plenty of people who say it's crazy, and you can definitely tell there's only one driver. But as far as my listening tastes go, especially when it's mostly podcasts, it's awesome. So I did do my customary. I have to play "Centipede" by Knife Party on all my new audio equipment. That's my first song, and it doesn't have any of the thumpiness that you'd expect there wouldn't be any without any kind of woofer or anything. But it can reproduce the low notes, so you can hear them, which is nice. Whether there's a thump or not, being able to hear them is still a big deal.
So it's loud enough to drown out the noise of the shower. And I assume you listen to this show while you're having a shower most mornings?
Either our show or ATP or something like that. Yeah, it's plenty loud, and it got me real excited about it, and I want to go get a bunch more just to stick all over the house because they're so nice.
And then you could have whole home audio as well. That'd be a nice experience, probably. Stick a podcast on, just walk from the bedroom to the shower to the kitchen, never skipping a beat, never missing a word.
My problem is most of my rooms already have HomePods in them, so I've actually been like straining my brain trying to think like, where could I really just stick a HomePod mini that's like just outside of comfortable range for the HomePods I already have.
Maybe you need to somehow attach a battery to it and make it a portable HomePod mini and then just carry it around with you.
There you go. So I can annoy everyone else on like public transit or whatever.
Put it on your wrist. It's the new Apple Watch.
It's a little big for that.
It even has like an LCD on the top.
I don't think it's a full screen. I think it's just a few multicolor LEDs underneath the surface. Yeah. I highly recommend it if you've been thinking about one at all.
Yeah, I have. It's probably just a matter of getting down to the Apple Store because they're so cheap as well.
Right. So that's actually been that's the only reason it took me so long to get one is they were so back ordered that I could never just impulse buy one and have it the next day. And if I couldn't have it the next day, I just never bothered ordering it.
Just wasn't worth getting, was it?
Right. So I had to wait until I could order one and it'd be here within a couple of days.
That's completely illogical. You had to wait because you didn't want to wait.
Right. Well, I didn't want one. I've actually ordered HomePod minis and then canceled the order in like over the past couple months because I keep thinking that I wanted one to put in the bathroom, but $100 is like right on that limit where it's like, well, I don't really need one. I won't bother spending the money. And if I have to wait 2 months for it, I'm not that excited about it. So I just cancel the order. But when I can get it the next day, then I'm like, oh, I'm going to get it tomorrow. This is really exciting. And then I don't even think about canceling it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I probably did have to wait longer as a result of waiting for them to be in stock than just ordering it.
Which color did you get?
I got white.
Nice.
Yeah. Most of my big HomePods are black, and I've never been a fan of the black color of them, but those just seemed to be what was in stock. Because I got most of them from Best Buy. They do like $100 off the HomePods pretty frequently, and so I always pick one up when that sale's going on. They only ever have the black ones, so I was pretty tired of that, and definitely was holding out for a white one this time.
It's just a routine. Does it get annoying when they go on sale? You're like, oh god, I'd better go and buy another HomePod.
Sometimes I feel that way about products, which is a terrible mentality to have. Like, I just have to buy it. But I'm actually really anxious for the next time it goes on sale, because I want a pair of full-sized HomePods to use as like my surround sound for my television, now that Apple TVs can pair with them directly. And but I'm not going to spend $300 on a HomePod, so I got to wait until they're $200 again.
By surround sound, do you mean 4 or just the 2?
I think you can just stereo pair them. So not real surround sound, but whatever Apple's audio engineering to fake surround sound ends up sounding like.
When the original HomePod first came out, I got a black one and a white one. And I probably would have kept the white one over the black one, except out of the box it was already dirty. So that one ended up getting returned, and I just kept the black one. But
yeah, that's right. I remember that.
Yeah, I think a white one would probably be my preference. So maybe I can fill that gap in my life with a white mini instead.
Do you still have your original HomePod?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it has not skipped a beat.
It's pretty nice. I'm kind of nervous they're going to update them soon.
And then you'll have to wait for the sales and go and update all your HomePod's originals.
Well, if they're going to, like, I can imagine them putting just a newer processor, maybe the watch chip like the HomePod minis have, and I'm sure they'll put ultra wideband chips in them the next time they get updated. So there's going to be some new features around that I'll probably want. So I'll have to
in
wait
that
and see.
list, at least, I don't think there's anything worth updating though. Like, they wouldn't release a whole new product just with that. And the minis only just got released as well. I think it's going to just sit around as a product in their lineup for many years to come without an update.
I mean, it could very easily be a quiet incremental update. It's just like sticking the new processor in the laptop every year. That's not a big news. It's just something you have to do to stay up to date. And they could just quietly update the HomePods at some point and not make a big deal and call it HomePod 2 or anything.
Maybe, but I mean, sales data, I think you actually make the list as like in the top 5 buyers of HomePods. It's like people who are huge Apple fans are like the highest buyers. People who love the Apple TV irrationally. David Freeman.
You think it's irrational to like an Apple TV?
Like, not irrationally as in it's unlovable, but too much for what it is.
I see.
That's what I meant. Yeah, so I think you make even the top 3 of categories of HomePod buyers. That's why I don't think they have too much interest or aren't really compelled to produce another one very quickly. I reckon the HomePod Mini is more likely to have a version 2, since they seem to be flying off the shelves.
Yeah, they do seem to be popular. I wonder if that's more of just a stock limitation issue, or if they just have been much more popular than the original HomePods. Yeah,
it's probably a bit of both.
Yeah. So HomePod Mini is not the only thing I've purchased in the last couple weeks, though. As I assume you're aware, or at least was in your general consciousness, CES happened last week, and for the most part, that people just show off their tech demos, like this is where tech's going. There's not very many actual buyable products that come out of CES, but it was a big event for MagSafe. There were tons of accessory manufacturers showing off their new MagSafe accessories, and part of that was the Belkin 3-in-1 that got showed off on stage when MagSafe was announced finally became available for purchase. So I purchased that because I've been waiting since I got my phone for the Belkin 3-in-1 charger. Ever since my Nomad charger, ever since I've just realized that Qi charging in general on these new phones is much harder to line up right and get it to be a solid signal. MagSafe has been my saving grace, and having it all integrated into one dock is super nice. So I'm really happy to have that.
Remind me again the layout of the dock.
So it's got a single like Qi charger base that you're supposed to set your AirPods on, and then has a metal arm coming out at the top that tees off at the top. And one side you set your Apple Watch on, and the other side is a MagSafe puck for your phone to stick to.
Okay.
And that's much better than my current solution, which was I still had the Nomad base station charger, but it was only charging my AirPods and my watch, and I had to have a separate MagSafe puck sitting on my nightstand as well for my phone.
Yeah, but now it's a nice, neat solution all in one.
Yeah. Also, at the same time, Anker released a 2-in-1 charging stand, which is just a Qi charging puck with an arm with MagSafe on the top. And I have that on my desk, and it's not even plugged in because my phone lasts so long, I don't want to overcharge it. But I did want something MagSafe I could just snap my phone onto, and I'm sitting at my desk. So I got that.
So it's just a dumb stand with magnets.
Right. Well, it's the first one that's integrated. There's lots of companies that have been making like MagSafe stands, but they're just meant for you to take your MagSafe puck and stick it in whatever piece of plastic or wood they've carved out. And I'm not a fan of that solution, especially because I didn't want to plug it in, so I didn't want to have a cord hanging out the back. So I was really the Anker stand was the first like integrated magnet that I didn't have to bring my own charging puck.
So the cord is removable then, so it's literally just the stand.
Right. So, and if I ever change my mind at some point in the future, I can plug it in, have a 2-in-1 charger on my desk as well.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Sounds like you've got everything sorted.
Yeah. The only thing that I'm still up in the air about, but I'm thinking I'm going to buy, I'm in the same boat, is I'm going to get the Belkin, the vent mount. But it's also been pushed back so far, and I've had the same mentality as the HomePod Mini. I've actually ordered and canceled it as well because it's not going to come for a couple months. So as soon as I can impulse buy it, I'll have one to talk about as well.
This is the one where you still have to plug the phone in, right? So it's a vent mount to a MagSafe magnet, and that's all the product is, and then you still plug your phone in to charge and CarPlay.
Right. So, which I have to anyway because I have wired CarPlay. So,
right.
I actually prefer it not to double charge my phone. So that's actually a better solution for me.
To double charge?
Well, if the vent mount was going to be trying to charge my phone with Qi and I had my phone plugged in at the same time, I don't know what that would do, but I'd rather not worry about it.
I've heard it's an immediate explosion on the scale of a nuclear bomb.
I believe you.
So would highly caution against it.
So I just don't necessarily need that because it's not like I ever need to look at my phone while I'm driving, and it's sitting like in my armrest when I'm driving, and it's out of the way. And so putting it like up in my face, stuck in a vent, it seems like it's asking for more trouble than solving any problems. But
so you're actually double screening because you've got the CarPlay screen and the phone screen.
I would be at that point, yeah. And I have no reason to need to because everything I'd want to interact with is already on CarPlay. Mm-hmm. So the only things that I'd want to do like on my phone screen are things that I shouldn't be doing while driving anyway. I'm sure there's lots of people it makes sense for though, like delivery drivers or Uber or whatever, who need like the DoorDash app or whatever pulled up at all times.
Yeah. Can I segue this into the next topic?
Yeah.
I immediately after this show, I'm going to pick up a new car and it has CarPlay. So I'm going to have CarPlay for the first time in around 2 hours.
Ooh, what are you getting?
It's a fairly boring family car. It's a Ford Mondeo station wagon.
A Mondeo? I've never heard of that. That must be...
maybe it's got a different name in your market. Let me just quickly jump on Ford.com and see if I can discover what it might be.
Large family
Looks
car.
like it might be a Fusion.
Yeah, it does look like a Fusion.
Yeah, it's a Fusion. Yeah, so I've got a Fusion station wagon. Yeah, it's
Cool.
identical.
I don't think you can even get. You definitely can't get them as station wagons in the U.S. though. That's super
okay.
cool. I'm a big fan of station wagons, but they've completely gone away in favor of minivans and SUVs in the U.S.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I did
That looks
toss it
pretty
up.
sleek.
It seems to be fairly common once you have a family to go SUV. But I don't know, this one just ticked a lot of boxes for me. It's a diesel, so it gets great fuel economy, plenty of space for everyone, and yeah, fairly compact, I guess, compared to an SUV.
Yeah, very very cool. And I assume this will have wired CarPlay.
You know, I don't know. I would say so, though.
I think it's still, even though wireless has been out for many years now, I think only a couple manufacturers have actually adopted it.
Okay. Yeah, that was my understanding as well.
Yeah.
Let's see. Ford to introduce wireless CarPlay in select 2020 vehicles. So, yeah.
Okay.
Not this one.
Well, I am a big fan of CarPlay. I changed out my head unit in my old car years ago so that I could have it, and made sure that the car that I bought 2 years ago now had it, and you can't live without it at this point.
I am very excited to try it out. I've got very limited experience with CarPlay. Limited to like 30 seconds sitting in someone else's car and, you know, just to try it, because I don't think any car I regularly go in has ever had CarPlay.
Well, it certainly beats out any of the built-in like infotainment software that any just auto manufacturers include.
Oh, yeah. I have no doubts about that.
Yeah.
So does it have like an app store on it? What's the deal?
No, it doesn't have its own app store. It'll just be whatever apps you have on your phone that have CarPlay support will show up on your screen.
Okay, sure. And does like the car launch into CarPlay, or do you have to launch CarPlay from the bad built-in one?
Well, since I have a Ford as well, a 2018 Ford, I assume that they'll work similarly between yours and mine. And when I plug my phone in, it immediately opens up into CarPlay.
Perfect.
And
that's what you want.
One of the apps in CarPlay is to go back into the old infotainment software.
The one you never press.
Well, unfortunately, like my car, the climate control is on the same screen, so I've got to go back to change temperatures and stuff.
That sounds annoying, but I'm sure I'll be able to live with it.
Yeah. At least I don't know what your car's going to look like, but I have like the basic temperature up and down and fan speed as buttons. But everything else, like if I want to turn on heated seats, or if I wanted to adjust the rear temperature or something like that, I'd have to actually switch to the climate control app.
All right. The stuff you don't need quite as frequently. No, that's fine then. Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm sure I'll have more CarPlay questions next show once I've hit all the shortcomings.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear your review, and it's gotten a lot better in the last couple of years as well. I don't know how much you rely on Apple Maps versus Google Maps now, but they recently added Google Maps support, so you can have the Google Maps app and it'll work on your screen as well. I just like having access to all my music.
Yeah, music, and I do tend to listen to podcasts a lot in the car. I believe Overcast has a CarPlay app, so that'll be nice.
Cool.
That's about it I use in the car, though, I think.
It's got a really nice like dashboard view that's got a few small windows with whatever you have playing showing up on part of the screen, and then just like a map of your location going, and it's got Siri integrations, so it'll understand your routines, and so when you're like pulling up to home, if you go to HomeKit house, it would show up a button on the screen to unlock your door, open the garage, or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is there any requirement to having like good microphones in the car just because it has CarPlay? Is there like a system requirements before the manufacturer can install CarPlay? Is that the microphones have to be decent?
I don't know. I don't think there's any limitation on it, because like the third party head units I've gotten with CarPlay have like the cheapest standalone mics they can include in the box.
Okay.
So, but the Ford microphones are good. I think you won't have any problems with that.
Because the microphones in cars are notoriously bad. I don't think I've ever had a car with decent microphones.
Oh, really? I think my setup is all right. I haven't had any complaints about my sound quality.
I also bought one other thing since we did the last show, and this was something I've tossed up buying on and off for a while. It was more of like a treat thing to buy, I guess. But it's the Moment camera lens, which comes with a case as well. Mm-hmm. So these are those like little, almost golf ball sized lenses that you can, you put the case on your phone, and it comes with a little like bayonet mount to mount this lens in front of the phone's camera, and then it converts the camera lens into whatever focal length the lens you buy is. So you could get like a fisheye lens or a telephoto lens, which is the one I went with, which is a 58mm equivalent. So, well, that's more of a standard lens, but it's called the
telephoto by iPhone standards.
That's true. Yeah. What's the tele on the 12 Max? Is that 58 as well, or 62?
I don't know what the millimeter equivalent is.
Because it got longer on the 12 Max than previously.
I will Google it while you tell me all about how great it is.
It is so good. I love it.
Really?
Besides the inconvenience of having this bulbous thing attached to your phone. I mean, you don't have to have it on there, but of course it is inconvenient just to have to carry around something else if you intend to use it. So I suspect after 6 months it might just end up living in the cupboard a lot of the time. But maybe like when I go out specifically to take photos of something, or I don't know, just around the house, I might try and attach it a lot. But I sent you a demonstration of like the iPhone's native focal length and this focal length, and just to show like how the perspective distortion is looks a lot nicer with more of a tele lens. And I think I've described this a lot in previous shows.
Right.
And now you've seen it with your own eyes.
Yeah, and that's something I've ever noticed before until you put just the same photo side by side, and you can really tell how curved some of those lines end up being.
Yeah, just a factor of being close to something when you take a photo of it. Lines ends up doing weird things. Straight lines go bendy, and as you go closer to the edge of the photo, it like stretches weirdly.
Right. It looks like the 12 Pro Max has a 65mm equivalent telephoto.
So even longer. Cool.
Yeah.
I guess the benefit of having the Moment lens is that you're using the primary sensor, camera sensor on the iPhone, which is the best sensor. Like, it's got the widest aperture of f1.6.
Right.
The wide lens on the iPhone 12 mini at least is, I think it's like an f2.4 or something like that. So it's noticeably worse. I don't know if the actual image sensor is better on the main lenses though, on the main cameras.
I think the main camera, and there's a lot of words that I just don't know what they mean, but it had something like focus pixels, more focus pixels, or deeper canyons. This is all, I don't even know what it means.
But the gist of it is that the main camera sensor is typically the best sensor of the 2 or 3 cameras that you have.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you've been so impressed with it, because these cases to snap different camera lenses on have existed as long as the iPhone has. I've always seen them floating around. But I never thought they would be any good. I thought it'd be more of a gimmick. So I'm impressed to hear that you like them.
Yeah, so a couple of things on that specifically. The cases that Moment does, they have like this new design. There was an old design with kind of like a wood paneling type thing, and it was fairly bulky, and I never held one, but I was never that interested in buying it either. But they do have a new line of cases called the Slim line, and they are actually really nice. They add nearly no bulk to the phone. And this is my favorite part of the case, is that it has a lip, like on the front of the phone, it's just got a very slight lip around both edges and the top, but along the bottom they've actually flattened the lip so it's almost flush with the phone, so it doesn't get in the way of your swiping actions from the bottom of the phone, which is just an amazing feature. Another nice thing that they've done is they've made the camera mount removable, so you can just take out that camera mount and they give you just like a blank plate to stick in there, so it's just looks like a regular case, doesn't look like a camera mounty case. But there is a slight problem that I found, is that the lens doesn't attach very well to the mount that I got, and Moment has actually sent me out another lens mount free of charge. So that's not here yet, but I haven't really been using the lens too much because it's very, very loosely attached to my phone, and I'm not confident that it's not just going to fall off as I'm walking around.
Okay.
So everything I've just said has a huge caveat in that I'm not really using it because it doesn't work very well. But hopefully by the time this new mount arrives, which is literally just a piece of plastic that clips into the case, everything will be solved and happy days.
Well, cool. I'm sure there's going to be some kind of market as MagSafe expands. I feel like a lot of this could be done with MagSafe in some way. It's a little tricky because the magnets are so far away from the camera. But if you had some kind of lens that you could magnetically attach to the back, that'd be cool too.
Yeah, say if the lens and the like a back plate, like a lens on a lens board, and then it'll align to the phone with the MagSafe part. That would be cool. Probably a little sturdier if the lens was actually manufactured attached to like a plate that went on the back of the phone, and then you could just like pull it off when you're done with it and put it back on. Yeah, that could be a solution as well.
There you go. We should go into business before someone takes our idea.
I bet it's incredibly hard to manufacture lenses.
I bet you're right. Apple seems to be failing at it quite a bit recently, in my opinion. I noticed quite a bit on my 11 Pro, and even more now on my 12 Pro Max. I don't know what to call this, but there's like a lens flare or something that happens in most of my photos if there's any source of light in the shot at all. It's like I've seen people hypothesize it's reflections between the lenses, but it just doesn't seem to matter what I do. Like even if there's just a lamp in the background in one of the photos I take, and there's going to be an orb of light that moves around the shot as I'm trying to line it up or something, and it never goes away.
And you've never noticed this on previous phones?
Well, I'd say this phone and my last phone I've noticed the most, but are you saying it's existed longer?
Oh no, I'm just wondering.
Yeah, prior to my 11 Pro, I haven't noticed it. I might just be more sensitive to those things now, or happen to see someone complain about it online, and now I can't unsee it. But yeah, it's become very annoying recently.
You could just embrace it as a photographic technique as well. Like there are some fairly well-known movie directors who enjoy a bit of lens flare. You just J.J. Freeman, the next up-and-comer in Hollywood.
There you go. Okay. I have to... Jellywood Freeman. J.W. Freeman.
J.W. Freeman. Nice. I've noticed it too, though. I have taken some videos on the 12 Mini and noticed a flare. It didn't occur to me that it was more frequent or worse than previous phones I've had, but I can't remember it happening as well. So maybe it's a matter of just going back through my photo library at some point and just seeing it if there is a lens flare.
Yeah, I need to at some point too.
The lens flare on these Moment lenses though is fairly bad, but I expected problems like that because it's sticking a lens in front of a lens, so there's only so much you can do. It is a lot sharper than their previous lenses, though, I've read, so if anyone listening has tried Moment before and thought the lenses were a bit soft, well, they're not soft anymore. Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you think now is the time... Actually, you know what? Did you want to talk and say anything about the events in the United States of America over the last few weeks?
Man, I don't know.
You don't have to. I mean, it's certainly been covered.
I'm actually curious, before I comment on anything, what it looks like to someone not in the country. Like, how is like the Australian news portrayed what's been going on in the US?
Oh, right. Well, it certainly made headlines when that riot or invasion or whatever you call it happened. It made headlines for a few days. I mean, it wasn't so widely reported that I really know what happened, but I mean, I wasn't exactly super interested to read up on it, but it was in the general consciousness, you would say. Sure. And it seems like just a bit of a shambles over there at the moment, but I think everyone's just hoping for a return to some sort of normalcy once the new president comes in, and hopefully all the people who are anti him becoming president, hopefully all that flame just flickers out. But I think there are some doubts as to that really happening.
So, well, as we're recording this show, Biden's inauguration happens tomorrow. So we're going to know real soon how well that's going to go. As for the preparation of that, like, our entire capital has been just pretty much locked down. Like, the military's moved in and secured most of the entire capital and all the federal buildings. So, and I just saw in the news today that they got a couple people, even within the military, who's like, oh, they might be a little radical, so we're just going to make sure they're not around in case there is an issue. And so they were pulling some people out today. So yeah, by the time this show goes up, or soon after, we'll know exactly how smoothly that all goes.
Okay, but what about the following months as well? How do you see that unfolding?
I don't think that anything to the scale of the attack on our Capitol building that happened a couple weeks ago is going to happen again. I think if something like radical or extreme were to happen, it would happen at the inauguration as some kind of protest. But I think after that, there's a lot of that's going to be dying down, which is a little bit scary in and of itself, because like there's lots of people who think like, yeah, we should attack like our capital, and at least right now we know who those people are, but they're all going to go quiet again, and so there's just going to be Among Us.
That's right. Yeah.
As far as how this like topic relates to tech and the president being banned from like all forms of social media, and then also the social media app Parler or Parlay, depending on where you're from. I assume it's Parler because it's a US app.
I always called it Parler.
Yeah, Parler getting banned from the App Store, and then also subsequently like AWS refused to host them anymore, and so they just completely went out of existence real quick. I did see they came back, I think yesterday, because a Russian company was willing to host them, so they're back now.
Okay,
but still inaccessible through anything except a web browser.
Well, that's fine. You know, it's the internet.
Right. Yeah. So, but yeah, there was a lot of yelling and hands raised over the censorship of Apple removing a social media app from the App Store. And I saw, I think just a couple days ago, a lawsuit was filed against Apple because they haven't removed Telegram from the App Store. I think the lawsuit said like Telegram also has hateful content and it's not being removed. So, which is the first time I ever heard of you can be sued for not taking something down. But anyway, everyone's mad. It's crazy. But as far as Apple's ability to remove things from the App Store, I think that's fine. There's a terms of service, and Apple went farther in trying to keep Parler on the store, they reached out and said, you just need to implement better moderation on your app and it can stay. And Parler either refused or just didn't. And Google didn't give them that kind of warning. They were just immediately removed from the Play Store. So I think, if anything, Apple did a little better in that sense.
So I don't really know what Parler is. Was it like a chat board, like a 4chan type situation? It wasn't just direct messaging between groups?
Right. It's like, think about like Facebook, right? So there's profiles and this central feed of people you follow that just all their stuff shows up. Or Twitter, right. Either one of those. It's just a social media, and it came about as a result of social media apps like Facebook and Twitter, like flagging invalid content or removing hateful content, and a lot of people in the far right wing party of the country accused these social media platforms of being just biased against them, and so they started up this new platform called Parler that just doesn't have any censorship, so they can just say whatever they want, and it's not flagged as false news or anything else. So that's the origin of it. But but then everyone who, I'm trying to phrase everything gently and it's hard. Everyone who was strongly politically opinionated moved to that app. And so it ended up being like a central organizing place for things like the attack on the Capitol a couple weeks ago.
Right, and Apple didn't agree with that happening, so they removed the app.
Right, yeah, didn't agree with like that action specifically, but also just like there's like just people like straight out saying like we need to kill this person or this governor, or we need to kidnap this person, and they're like, hey, this is inciting violence, and you need a moderating team to remove like the stuff that's not just people complaining politics, but actually saying we should kill people and things like that. And they didn't, because that's the whole idea of the app, is it's not being moderated.
Right. I don't think that sort of stuff belongs in an app. Like, go and use a Russian website if you need. I'm sure that'll be fully accessible on your phone. So, yeah. Right.
So yeah, I think if Apple, if no one has once complained in the what's it been, like 15 years of the App Store, that Apple doesn't allow pornography, then I don't think anyone should complain that they don't allow apps where people get together to decide who they want to kill next. So
yeah, which is worse? What if the app existed on the App Store, but it was more like a private group situation? So there was no public feed. It was just encrypted messages within a group, such as iMessage, and you organized to kill people via iMessage.
I think that's very different. It's very different in my mind, because you're not just saying things publicly to send out to the world. It's a conversation between you and one or a group of other people, and so you have to like either know who those people are, or they have to opt into the conversation in some way. So I feel like that's a little more okay. Like, I don't think that language or discussion like that's okay in any sense, but I don't think there's anything you can do about it, whether it's Telegram or WhatsApp or iMessage or whatever app. Especially the encrypted ones, there's no way you can enforce what people are saying.
Right. So why don't extremists turn to something like that? Like, surely you can say, you could have an app that just coordinates the creation of iMessage groups based on various topics. I guess it's limiting it to people who have iPhones.
Sure. Part of it is just like, I don't know how much there was very little creativity and engineering effort that went into the invention of Parler. It was just, we're getting our stuff deleted or censored on Facebook, so we're going to make Facebook again, but where it won't get deleted or censored. So they had a template they were going off of and just kind of copied it into their own social media app. Very poorly, apparently, because there's been basically an entire security breach of Parler, and I haven't looked into exactly what technology they're using, but basically everything that they're using like either the completely unsecured version or the free version. And so every photo, video post that's been put into Parler has been scraped already back, and they don't do anything, like they didn't trim the metadata off of photos or videos. So they got time and location for every photo that was posted. And part of account creation with Parler, I think this was in an effort to avoid bots. You had to upload your driver's license to verify you were a person. So every one of these so every one of these people, you've got like their actual photo ID, and like this is when they said it, and this is the photo they posted of them, like, you know, invading the Capitol or whatever. But
this actually sounds more like a honeypot trap.
It kind of does. I think it really is just complete incompetence, but it does sound like a trap.
It is all a little unbelievable.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's scary being in the middle of all of it too. Just because of how extreme everyone's gotten in the last, I mean, of the last 4 years, it's really ramped up. Just radical hate.
Has everyone become extreme, or have the extremists been brought out of the woodwork?
Right. Yeah, that's the biggest part of it, is that the rhetoric in our country has changed in such a way that people who would have either been quiet about their opinions in the past now feel emboldened to speak publicly and demonstrate about it, and that didn't used to be the case.
Well, maybe after 4 years' time, maybe in 4 years' time of a more moderate leadership, that's when we'll see some change for the better.
I mean, I'd definitely be happy for things to calm down a bit. I'm definitely not like in the camp of, you know, come tomorrow a new president's inaugurated, everything is gonna be better. Or I don't even think the course of 4 years things are gonna be completely better. But yeah, hopefully at least we can try to undo some of the things we did, like coming out of the Paris Climate Agreement and things like that. Like get back on the right track of being a responsible country.
Yeah. But you have to remember that a huge percentage of people still voted for that president.
Right, yeah. It's 50% almost. So, yeah. This is going to be an ongoing problem for a long time.
Well, is now the time to bring iMessage to Android? That's what it all comes down to.
Right.
The world's problems would definitely get slightly better if iMessage was on Android. And Windows. Can't forget Windows.
I would love for iMessage to come to Windows because I have to work from a Windows computer during the day for my job, and would love to be able to just respond to iMessages from a window like I do on my Mac. And I'd love for it to come to Android as well, if that meant that all the green bubbles in my phone went away.
Remember when Dell announced that you would have like a virtual iPhone of a virtual interface for your phone on the screen of the computer? Did that actually ever happen? Because we're going back probably a year now that was announced.
Don't even remember that announcement.
All right. I'll look it up for next show. That would have solved the problem for you, though. I'm sure it wouldn't have been a great solution.
Dell Mobile Connect.
Is that it?
I think I just reloaded the page, but I think it said for Android.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Coming spring 2020 iOS support. I don't know. It says coming spring 2020, which means it should have been here a year ago, but they haven't updated the website since then.
I doubt it.
So yeah, as an iPhone user who is stuck in some group chats with Android users, which means that all of our conversation is just going over SMS, I would love for iMessage to come to these other platforms if everyone adopted it, which I think has a good possibility of happening, at least in the US. since the US is still so heavily dependent on SMS, having something like iMessage could be something that Android users would adopt. But my understanding is that most other countries, everyone's already moved over to WhatsApp or some other platform by this point.
Certainly, the European countries that I'm familiar with are using WhatsApp primarily. It's a real mix here. I think by default, someone would probably go to send, like, an unknown person an SMS, and then, you cross your fingers that it turns blue before you send it. But once you actually know somebody, you're very unlikely to actually communicate via SMS. It goes to, or either iMessage, just because it does automatically, or you move on to WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or Instagram direct messages. But the problem there is that one company owns like 3 of the 5 options, right?
Right.
So if you have some hesitancy to give that one company data about you, then you're falling back to SMS or iMessage. And especially when it comes to group chats, I don't know anyone who relies on MMS or SMS for group chats. Like when you've got a mix of Android phones and Windows phones, or even like chuck an old Nokia in there. Everyone gave up on group SMS, in Australia at least, quite a long time ago.
I think it's a convenience. Well, for me, it's a convenience thing. I cannot stand the idea of having to manage multiple like messaging feeds in different apps. So it's either all in my messaging app, or I'm just not going to pay attention to it.
So it's all in messages, or you're not paying attention. So, like, do you even have like Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp installed on your phone?
I do not have WhatsApp. I have Facebook Messenger, but let me take a look at my Facebook Messenger. My last message I received on Facebook Messenger was December 29th, and it was from my dad, who is always forwarding me stuff on Facebook. So not a conversation I have, just a stream of stuff my dad sends me.
Yep.
And then the next one is you on November 26th. And that's because... I sent you something on...
Yeah.
Well, I reacted to like one of your Facebook stories. It was the pineapple on pizza one. And I wasn't aware that reacting to a Facebook story was going to send you a Facebook message.
Yep.
So, but yeah, other than that, I just don't use it.
Pineapple plus pizza equals happy face, licking your lips, maybe? It's surprising how few people really get on board with pineapple on pizza.
Yeah, it's very good.
What do you think of the up and coming apps like Signal or Telegram?
I think it's good that apps like that exist that are separate from a major social media company and are heavily focused on end-to-end encryption. But they're just redundant for me in my life because I already have iMessage to serve that purpose.
The effort to get a critical mass of people onto those services is just, it's insane.
Right.
It just has to build naturally, and for the app to get like more publicity and better features and more people using it over the course of like even a decade or probably or longer, before you've got like everyone using it, so that you could actually go and create a group chat and have everyone on it.
Right.
Which is just such a hurdle that it's so unlikely that either of the apps is ever going to get there.
Yeah, because it was like a decade of Facebook accounts before Messenger was split out into its own app. So,
yeah. And WhatsApp took off just because like there was nothing else.
Right.
iMessage took off because it just took over what you were doing already.
It was built into your text messaging app, yeah. So which is cool that, I mean, they can do the same thing with Android. They can build an app with the exact same functionality that as it is on the iPhone, because Android allows you to choose your default text messaging app. So Apple could make basically a one-to-one iMessage that functions identically on Android. So I think there's definitely good reason to do it. I think that they could attract people the same way they do on iPhones with that kind of functionality.
The only problem I could see is a lot of people who use Android do it like out of spite towards Apple. And so when Apple releases an app, they're not going to be on board just on principle.
Yeah. This article even spilled that out somewhere, and I just scanning it, I can't see where. But it said even people who aren't fans of Apple, because they say there's an Apple tax or iOS doesn't give them the level of customization. There's very few people who would argue about Apple's security and privacy standpoint. Like even the most avid anti-Apple people generally like, yeah, Apple's really good at those two things at least. And so hopefully those are the two selling points of iMessage. So hopefully that would be enough to get people to download the app. And I mean, to be honest, Google's tried like 5 or 6 different iMessage competitors, messaging app replacements, and they've all failed. So Android still doesn't have like a central, this is the messaging app of Android. So that is a niche still waiting to be filled that Apple's really hammered out by this point. So I think that it could still work even for those Apple haters.
Okay. So, and do you think Apple would actually ever do this, or is iMessage too big a selling point, or too big a platform lock-in for them to just open it up to the world?
I never felt like iMessage was a selling point or a lock-in, and I think it's probably coming from my perspective of half my conversations are still SMS, and so I'm not actually losing that much having to switch to an Android phone if all I was changing was my messaging app. But there is cost associated with that as well. iMessage isn't a service that like we pay a subscription to use. We kind of pay for the privilege of using iMessage by buying the hardware. But to say that the iMessage users would at least double by opening it to Android, that there's some significant server costs associated with that Apple would have to take on. So that could be a reason in of itself to not want to do that.
Apple gave some statistics about iMessage a few years after it was released, and it was just a phenomenal number of messages per second.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what it was? Something like 100 million messages a second?
I don't remember the statistics specifically, but you could basically say any large number and I'd believe it.
It was 200 billion. Actually, here we go. In 2016, they said it was 200,000 iMessages per second. So I'm sure it's a fair bit more than that now.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, and Apple's like, I don't know if they're one of or the richest company in the world at this given moment, but I'm sure it's a cost they could take on. But the question is, like, to what end? Like, just to make their iPhone users a little happier, I guess, would be it. But you're not going to be making any money off of Android users by opening up iMessage. If anything, you're guaranteeing you won't, because they won't ever switch to an iPhone for iMessage.
What if it was as a public service?
Public service?
As in a decent alternative to one of Facebook's messaging apps. One that didn't, sell on your message data to advertisers to then advertise a product to you.
Right. Yeah. If there was a way that Apple was going to position the iMessage, if they did that, that'd be exactly it. They already lean really heavily into their security and privacy stance. And opening up iMessage to everyone would be a great excuse to tout that. But I don't know. I just don't see any way that opening iMessage up makes them any more money, which I guess is just a very capitalistic mindset to have about it. But I just don't understand what else would motivate them to do it.
Well, it is an accountant, right, in charge of Apple, so I'm sure he's looked at the numbers and gone, there are only costs associated with this.
Right. So, but as a current iPhone user, I would love to have like my message effects and some of my little integrated apps and whatnot, be able to use that with everyone, or be able to send a picture message to a group chat and know that it's not going to send the lowest resolution, blurriest version of the picture because one person's on Android.
We only have simple needs, don't we? So there's a new report from Ming-Chi Kuo regarding new MacBook Pro models. And I have to say, it's rather exciting. So Apple's working... Yeah.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say that they're working on two new models, 14 and 16 inch. Naturally, they're going to be Apple Silicon model. But the fantastic thing about these products, or about this rumor at least, is that they are going to get rid of the touch bar, and there are going to be more I/O ports, along with a few other bits and pieces in the rumor.
It seems like there's someone in Cupertino that listens to our podcast and thought that they really want to make you happy, James.
Mm-hmm. It was my wish list, wasn't it? More or less.
Yeah. I don't know what more I/O necessarily entails, but my thought is if they're going to add, Quo specifically said that enough I/O that regular people wouldn't need dongles at all for anything. So my thought is there'll be USB-A, HDMI, and an SD card reader. That's what I'm anticipating them adding.
USB-A, I would be doubtful.
Really? Okay.
Because so much is USB-C, I don't think they would have two of like the same kind of port on the computer.
Okay.
But when it comes to SD cards, well, there isn't an alternative besides a dongle, so put that on there. Also, SD cards are exceptionally thin, so you can easily put it on a very thin computer.
Right.
HDMI, again, there are alternatives, but when it comes to like just plugging a TV or a monitor in, a TV, I guess, monitors have mostly gone USB-C Thunderbolt now anyway.
Yeah, the highest end ones have. I think most cheap consumer monitors still only have HDMI.
Okay. But TVs, they're pretty much all HDMI.
Right.
Is the HDMI port too thick, though, for whatever this new generation of computer is?
Let me see.
I mean, it barely fits on the side of the 2015 MacBook Pro, just looking at it now. There's not much metal on either side of that port. The computer is about as thin as you could have it, while also having a HDMI port in it. Same goes for USB-A, actually.
Yeah, my MacBook Pro is pretty dang thin. They could always return to the original MacBook Air design of like a little port door that opened up.
Wouldn't that be nice? Not.
Well, I don't know what else new I/O entails if you feel that HDMI and USB-A are iffy.
Yeah, that's going to be my prediction. Put it down on paper. I think they're just going to add an SD card. Maybe this is just me hoping. My hopes are coming through in my predictions. It's just going to be USB-C and SD.
So
one of the rumored... Sorry?
I was a little disappointed to see the touch bar was going away. I think I've said this in the past. I'm a fan of the touch bar. But the more I thought about it, the more it makes sense if a touch screen is going to be added to the Mac at the same time, that the touch bar would be much less necessary at that point. So fingers crossed that the removal of the touch bar comes alongside the addition of a touch screen.
Marquez Brownlee did a little informal review of Twitter responses. Did you see that in his latest video?
I didn't.
Opinions on the touch bar. And it was 5% of people, of responses to his post about it, that actually liked it and wanted it to stay. Struggling to remember the other percentages, but it was like 26% didn't care, and then the rest wanted it gone. So it seems popular opinions anti-touch bar.
If I had to do my day job on my laptop, my opinion might change. Because I have to use the function keys quite a bit in my day-to-day. So I might get annoyed of having to hold down function to see the F1 through 12 keys appear. But as someone who just like casually uses a laptop and the amount of like programming I do is like more hobby and not actual work,
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy the touch bar and don't miss my function keys.
How about the MagSafe connector? Because apparently it's coming back. In what form that would be?
Mm-hmm. This is very interesting. MagSafe is such a great connector. Like just the whole idea of you can trip over your power cable and not yank your computer off the table. That's huge. But some of the advantages of USB-C that we've gained over the last 5 years or so, between a single cable solution for plugging in all of your external devices and charging, and being able to plug in on either side of the computer, those are some pretty big wins that I would miss quite a bit.
Yeah, I enjoy having USB-C as a charging method for everything because everything is starting to be USB-C. Like the iPads are, my cameras are USB-C charging. The phone's a bit annoying, doesn't have USB-C, but USB-C is the direction everything's heading. And for Apple to splinter that again and bring back MagSafe would be annoying. My hope is that they somehow incorporate USB-C with like a magnetic detaching component, and they call it MagSafe, and yet it's still USB-C. But I've tried to imagine all sorts of engineering designs which should let that happen, and I can't really come up with one that would actually function.
Well, there's plenty of aftermarket accessories that already basically do this, where it just is a little plug you stick in a USB-C port, and then it has a magnet on it to snap the cable onto.
Are they any good?
I have no idea. I've never invested in one. I would assume that if MagSafe came back, that wouldn't be at the cost of charging via USB-C. So I think our single cable solutions and being able to just carry a USB-C cable with you on the go if you want, we won't lose that. But then there'll be the people who want to use MagSafe will have that option again as well.
It seems rather unappealing, but it would be a workable solution.
I mean, if they're planning on building a whole ecosystem around MagSafe, now that it's on the iPhone, and if they were to rebrand the Apple Watch charger as MagSafe as well, maybe there's some kind of existing or some future interoperability they're planning. There was a patent filing last week, I believe, that revealed that the iPhone 12 series devices have the capability to reverse wireless charge, and that it specifically is the patent filing is specifically talking about a future device that would enable it. And I think at the time people were hypothesizing that this is like the next redesign of AirPods will have MagSafe, so you can like put your AirPods on the back of your phone and it kind of like magnetically connects and charges itself. But if you had a system like that where your laptop has MagSafe, like the Apple logo or something, where you slap the big puck on the back to charge it, or you can set your phone down on your laptop and your laptop will charge your phone, or some kind of ecosystem like that, you know?
Imagine just snapping a puck onto your computer to charge it. There's no way it would deliver enough power to actually do it, would it?
It wouldn't have. It would definitely have to have some kind of like physical pin connectors or something. There's no way that you could wirelessly charge it at any reasonable speed.
I think I'm going to set my expectations a bit lower.
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be any crazy MagSafe interoperability between like iPhone and computer. Maybe AirPods and phone, sure. But I would limit it at that.
Man. But just when we thought all hope was dead for the SD card slot, they've got your hopes up again.
How about this last part of the rumor? In terms of casing design, the new models cancel the curvy design of existing models' top and bottom parts. I like cancel. And adopt a flat-edged form factor design similar to the iPhone 12. I don't understand that, because the computers are already fairly flat. I mean, if there's any curve, I mean, like there's a very minor curve from the sides to the bottom or to the top of the lid.
Right.
Are they going to make that flat? Is that what they mean? There's going to be like no radius at all from side to bottom and to top?
That seems like what's implied. And that might actually solve your port size problem too, because if they squared it off by just making the sides, that extra millimeter or two taller so they can accommodate the ports, and it's just now a flat rectangle.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. That'd be a great looking computer, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd be subtly different, but I think it'd look nice.
I think it would be really different, especially if the top case was flat as well. It would be very angular.
I wonder if they'd square off the corners too. Probably not, because it's not like the iPad and phones have sharp corners.
No, they've got round corners. You have to keep the round corners.
Yeah.
No, I think it would look totally different and very futuristic.
It's funny. Yeah, it's funny to think that way because I agree that it would look very nice and modern and futuristic, but it was only, 5-10 years ago that all laptops were squared off like that. That's just how they were made.
Good point.
But I guess besides Apple, back when they had their plastic laptops, those were always pretty like round and bulbous.
Oh yeah, they were extremely round, weren't they?
Yeah, but like the days of, like the PowerBook, that was pretty squared off. There was no curves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So then you go back extra far. You get the iBook G3. That was the most round laptop.
Oh yeah, it was like a kid's toy basically.
Yeah.
So Fisher Price designed it.
Yeah. So design seems to fluctuate between round and square, and we're back on the square cycle apparently.
We've gone square on some edges and round on corners.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine if all their devices had like the same design language, and then you could collect them all, and it would just look amazing when you did a flat lay on a desk.
Well, if they're gonna rally all their designs around one central design language, I'm really happy they've chosen this one, because I'm really a big fan of the squared off edges.
Speaking of redesigns, another part of the rumor, of a rumor, is that Apple plans the first iMac desktop redesign in nearly a decade.
Mm-hmm.
The summary from Mark Gurman is that Apple plans first blah 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 with a new look reminiscent of the Pro Display XDR.
There's only so far you can take the iMac, right? It's already just a screen, so all you can do is make the bezels smaller. So it's
not
kind of
just
makes
a
sense.
screen. It's a screen, and it's got bezels. It's got a huge chin.
Right. But I'm saying the only direction the iMac can ever go is to be closer and closer to just the screen.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense that that's what it would be. And if we say design reminiscent of the XDR because it's also going to be metal and squared off, that's cool too. If they do really embrace the XDR design, I hope they keep the like a swiveling hinge so you can switch the display between portrait and landscape.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
There must be so much space inside the XDR. Like the actual computer parts of a computer are so small these days, especially with Apple Silicon. There's going to be so much space to put an iMac computer inside the XDR and just call it a day.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to go with that big a size though, or even that quality of screen, because that would be exceptionally expensive. But if they toned it down to, I don't know, do you think they would go with 27 inches again? They seem fairly keen on that resolution. Like a 5K 27-inch iMac with the Pro Display XDR design, and chuck the computer inside.
What screen size is the XDR?
I actually have no idea. It must be 30 inches though, right?
It's 30 something, yeah. See, because this isn't really a new rumor. There was lots of people talking about we'll see an iMac refresh like in the middle of last year, and that never came.
Mm-hmm. It's 32 inches, by the way.
Okay. Yeah, they were talking about a similar design language of more squared off and everything. And at that time, like 6 months ago, they were saying that the screen sizes were going to be boosted to 24 and 32 inches.
Well, that plays into this quite nicely then. You'd actually reuse the 6K display.
They have to put a cheaper display in it.
You'd have to be a cheaper display. You wouldn't make it like, this close to reference monitor type display with 1,000 nits sustained brightness, 1,600 peak brightness, and you'd have to go with the P3 wide color though, because that's in all their computers now. So I bet it would have just an excellent display, but not the XDR $6,000 display.
Right. Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do. I'm becoming less of a fan of the iMac form factor, though. Like, I totally get that the iMac is what came back and saved Apple in the late 90s, and it's kind of their signature computer.
Totally different form factor, though.
Right. But it's just the general idea of a unified computer.
Okay.
I like the idea of just being more modular in general, being able to switch out displays if I want, or upgrade components. That's crazy. But I just don't see the appeal of my computers built into my monitor as much as I used to. And so I would rather see Apple make a $1,000 or $1,500 display and, a similarly priced desktop to go alongside it.
I'm all for the all-in-one experience. Like, the fewer cables lying around, the better.
Right.
I'd be very happy. If I was going to have a desktop, it'd 100% be an iMac.
It's just the problem with iMac, because I've got my 2015 iMac with an awesome 5K display in it, and just average to poor, computer at this point. And there's no option for me to keep my awesome 5K display. I have to get rid of the whole computer if I want an upgrade. And that's the disappointing part.
Man, just scrolling through the Pro Display XDR page on Apple's website, it's just such a nice display, and there is so much space in there for a computer.
Right.
And it's even got the ports on the back already ready to go. Just add an SD card port and call it a day.
I mean, I could see them pretty much doing that. They put a cheaper panel in that doesn't need active cooling, and so the whole design on the back, it just become a solid sheet of metal, and they'd put a computer in there and
no. But if you kept like the active cooling, you could put a really crazy computer in there.
Well, I think with Apple Silicon, I think the Pro Display XDR has 3 fans in it, which is way more than even a high-end Apple chip would need.
Hard to see from this teardown. It looks like it might be 2 fans, but it could be 3.
Okay.
But it's not like the Intel i9 iMac, which needs like basically a vortex of air going from bottom to top to keep it cool. You could have these fairly low speed 2 or 3 fans, just chucking some air out the back, and that would probably be more than enough for a high performance iMac Apple Silicon.
I'm anxious to see what they do.
Speaking of M1s, since we last spoke, Apple started blocking the side loading of iPhone and iPad IPAs on M1 Macs, and then unblocked the blocking of running them. So a bit of flipping and flopping. So, as we've mentioned before, you can just use Apple Configurator or a few other tools to get IPAs, the iPhone app files, and then just run them on M1 Macs. For better or for worse, there are certainly reasons why some of them aren't just readily available. But then there are some which are really good. Any idea why Apple blocked them and then unblocked them?
No, and this is something I'd love to get a little bit of transparency on. Even if it was just like some kind of person like, oops, we didn't mean to block that. Don't worry, it's back now. But no, the fact that they did it and didn't say anything leads me to believe that that's their intention of doing, and they just accidentally did it a little too early or something, but are still planning on eventually blocking it.
Okay.
So, because I
Do
bet
you think you should be
some
able to?
Big company complained.
Yeah.
Someone who's like, our app not made for like Netflix or whatever. Our app is not optimized for Mac, and we specifically turned it off, and people are still able to do it. And Apple's just like, okay, Netflix, we'll make that not allowed anymore.
Yeah. But then why did they unblock it? There must have been some unforeseen knock-on effect.
Yeah, I have no idea. Yeah, I don't know. I'd love some transparency on this.
There are a lot of like free computing type people who think you should be able to run these iPhone and iPad apps on your M1 Mac since it's technically capable of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're quite annoyed that Apple would just, like, server side stop you from running an app that your computer is capable of running.
Right. I think I'm in that boat. If a developer doesn't think their app is optimized or good enough for Apple Silicon, they remove it from the App Store. That means 99% of people won't ever run the app. And the people that do care about trying to get to work and know enough about Macs to even get it on there in the first place do it. I think they inherently will know the risks associated with that and that it might not work at all. And so I don't think you risk damaging your brand image by these apps still being able to run.
Exactly.
Because only the most tech enthusiast people will be able to do it in the first place.
And inevitably, if they leave the block, if they put the black block back on and leave it there, some smart person is going to find a workaround anyway, and then you'll be able to run them.
Yeah, I've already seen some discussions in the comment section of this about how to get around it. If you have like a jailbroken phone and don't have the comment pulled up, but something about you can use a jailbroken phone to disable the protection or whatever on it, or unpackage the app, and then you can move it to your Mac.
I mean, jailbroken Macs might be a thing of the future if this starts to happen.
Right,
and
yeah.
That's not like a community that needs to exist.
Well, I mean, yeah.
It shouldn't have to. It shouldn't have to exist.
Jailbreaking on a Mac sounds ridiculous because a Mac is already open.
Right, and that's how it should stay.
So yeah, I agree that Apple shouldn't be doing anything on their server side to block you from running something.
I'm James VDM on Reddit and on Twitter.
And I'm Jellywoot on Reddit and Twitter.
And you can find the show notes and leave a comment at reddit.com/r/the_Apple Show.
So I smashed my glass screen protector for my phone.
Ah, okay. But the phone screen survived.
Right, yeah. And so I'm just saying that I saved my phone screen, but I'm hypothesizing it wouldn't have broken anyway.
Okay. Because it's the crystal sapphire something?
Well, yeah, it is the harder glass, but also the glass screen protector protrudes from the phone just a little bit, whereas the phone's glass sits like flush with the metal edges. So I think it would have been protected. But I was crouched down pulling a pot out of the cupboard, and my phone fell, the 2 inches from my pocket to the floor, and it cracked the screen protector.
Wow, okay. Must have been a weakish screen protector, or just the wrong angle.
Right, yeah, it hit right on the corner of the screen protector, and it sent a crack right along it. So yeah, so I peeled it off, and I'm kind of enjoying not having a screen protector on there, but D-Brand sent 2 of them with my order, so I'll probably stick a new one on soon before I scratch it and get mad at myself.
Yeah, perfect.
So you have time to tell me what's going on with your AirPod?
Yeah, this will be quick. I was helping Johannes use the toilet, and he slapped me in the ear, and I lost an AirPod into the toilet.
Oh no!
And it didn't survive, so I'm down to 1 AirPod. Hopefully, I'll I don't know. You can buy just single replacements, can't you?
Right. I don't think they're that cheap, but you can.
Yeah. So disappointing. It's like 2 months old, and it's already gone to heaven.
How long ago did that happen?
A couple of days.
Okay. So it's had time to dry out and it didn't recover.
Yeah, I put it straight into... I washed it at first because he just used the toilet, and then I put it in very direct sunlight for hours, and nope, never came back.
That's too bad, especially with all the stories of AirPods surviving washing machines and stuff.
Yeah, I know, right? I was kind of expecting it to come back, but
right,
sadly not.
Well, now you've got an excuse to get the pros.
Oh, speaking of the devil, he enters the room. Do you want to say hello to David?
Yes. Where
Hello?
are you at? I'll beat yes.